Like right now. It says we're live.
This,
Wow.
This is I'm live face.
You look
I'm
frozen.
kind of nervous, guys.
Hello,
How's it
hello,
going?
hello. Good.
Hi.
This is
You guys
Either
either
look
nobody's
good.
watching or it's taking a long time for it to update the number of people watching. There's one.
Oh, I need to click
It
on
says
the
we
chat.
have unfinished project is here, and perpetual projects replied, but that wasn't me. That must have been Amber. She must not have switched her account yet.
Uh-oh.
Uh-huh.
Amber, are you going to be perpetual projects tonight, or are you going to be quality control? Maybe everybody forgot. Still showing one in the watching category there. There's she's uploading a video.
Oh, okay.
Maybe that's why my internet wouldn't work earlier.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Got too many bandwidths going.
Mm-hmm.
We have 100 gig internet. I would think we could run a live and upload a video at the same time.
You would think.
But since I'm on the Wi-Fi and that computer is connected directly to the router with a Cat 5 or 6 or whatever cable.
Yeah, you're speaking Greek to me.
But it's hardwired. This is on Wi-Fi and that's hardwired.
Okay.
I either have good Wi-Fi or bad Wi-Fi. And that depends on what day it is.
I have almost 5.
What's up, Turbo Tom? We're going to talk about the good stuff tonight.
Don't worry, Chad. Someday they will bring Wi-Fi to or good internet to your area too.
Maybe. I mean, they just got daylight piped in a couple weeks ago, so.
Should look into that Elon Musk supercomputer internet stuff there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's satellite, right?
Yeah. Starlink.
Oh.
Yeah, well, we just had the wagon train leave last week, so.
You have running water yet?
Almost. It runs down the side of the road whenever it rains real hard.
That's nice. That's real nice.
Amber says popcorn racing.
Not anymore.
Well, Ryan, if you haven't figured out yet, you will never live that down. Never.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I wear that crown proudly.
I hope so.
Guy with the best vacuum leak this side of the Mississippi. I mean, it leaked from everywhere. It might as well have not even been on the car.
This is one of the few times in my life that I actually use the term "I told you so."
Yeah. Let's go ahead. Anybody else want to rub anything in on me while we're getting ready to get started here?
I usually don't use that because I'm afraid to offend anybody, but I'm not afraid to offend you or make you mad. So I just,
Sorry.
And
sorry. I thought it was electronic thermoquad issues.
I seem to remember that you were on that trail at No Name Nationals because you borrowed some bolts to stick in those holes.
I did. Yeah, I was. We were on the cusp, and it was funny because it seemed like it ran better for a minute and then it didn't run good again, and that was because we did fix where it was leaking there, but it was everywhere else that it was leaking.
Yeah. All the other open air gaps.
Correct. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Literally could have put the intake on the ground next to the car and just poured gas down the runner, and probably fared a bit better.
Yeah. It'd have been hard to keep up with going down the track though, because it was still pretty fast.
Yeah.
It was faster than my truck.
It was faster when Dave drove it. Because I was in angry mode. He was trying to figure out what was actually wrong. I was trying to punish the car because I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
Well, Dude's Mopar is here.
What's going on, dude? Mopar? How we doing? Well,
So I guess we've been kind of alluding to your tunnel ram problems, but how about the tunnel ram pluses?
well, look, it's a tunnel ram, right? And just say the word with me. Let's all do it at once. 1,
Ready?
2, 3.
Tunnel ram.
Oh, Ram.
Right.
Sorry, I
Awesomeness.
went back.
Once again. Tunnel ram.
Tunnel ram.
Jealousy.
Yeah. So
Envy.
the tunnel ram is the epitome of awesome. There have been many who have climbed that mountain and found nothing but misery, and there have been a lot that have climbed that mountain and found nothing but ruined tires, broken rear ends, and a lot of good time slip.
Yeah,
It's,
I had some other comments, but this is still before our normal show.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay,
I got to keep it clean for this one.
I mean, you weigh things, right, when you're building something. You're like, okay, well, I could go a single 1050 and accomplish the goal that's needed to suffice enough airflow for this particular engine, right? But then you think about it as you're putting it together and you're able to close the hood and not see anything at all. And you're like, man, the cool factor is about 0. So if you want to step the cool factor up to 100, the first thing you do is buy a tunnel ram and then awkwardly cut an incorrect size hole in your hood and put said tunnel ram on it. Now, one would think, man, that's a lot of money, and that's twice the carburetor, and that's obviously a crap ton of money nowadays. But what dollar amount can you put on cool? You know what I mean? Can you really put a dollar amount on it, right? So, I mean, I think if you're gonna, if you're looking at like top 10 reasons to put a tunnel ram on versus top 10 reasons to not, I mean, the top 10 to do it is much better than to not.
Yes,
it's like the first 5 it's awesome. I mean,
yeah,
it's awesome, and then you got 5 other cool reasons to do it.
Right, that probably have something to do scientifically that makes something better that I can't even wrap my head around.
Maybe like make more horsepower or something like that, but
something like that, right?
So you said horsepower, but I was just doing a little bit of research for our video tonight, and I don't know if you guys know who Just Mopar Joe is, but he recently did back-to-back testing on a Performer RPM air gap versus a high-rise tunnel ram on a dyno the same day on the same dyno, and I don't want to misquote it, but I'm nearly 100% sure the tunnel ram made more power everywhere than the Performer RPM air gap. Down low, up high, and that video means a lot to me because my 440 that's in my truck is pretty similar specs. It's not quite as good as his, but it's pretty similar specs as far as cam and everything else. And I was seeking a tunnel ram at one point for my truck, and I backed off because I didn't want to rev it to 10,000 RPM. But that video, if he'd have made that video 8 months ago, my truck would have a tunnel ram on it right now because I had one lined up and I was gonna buy it, and you know what, I'm not gonna do it. And now of course that one is used and isn't available anymore. But I really wish I would have bought it because I mean, if I'm not mistaken, I think the peak horsepower, like the peak horsepower on that 400 was still like 57 or 5,800 RPM, which is right where I'm going with what I have now. That would have been perfect for my combination. So,
and that's a common misconception that even I had, that with the tunnel ram is that it's for high RPM screaming, but with the long runners are made, they build more torque, more mid range. The shorter the runner, the more high RPM, more peaky the engine's going to be. that's why the Performer RPM air gap that he used in that video, which is by far, hands down, the best all around intake manifold for up to like 6,500 RPM.
Yeah.
It usually does way better over the whole curve than any single plane. But the reason being is it's got longer runners.
Yeah.
And the tunnel ram has the long runners, which actually produces more torque. It actually sacrifices a little bit up top.
Plus,
yeah, it does.
It has 2 carburetors and sticks out of the hood.
Well, yeah, and there you have that too. Right.
And boom, that's. I mean, we could end this right now and pretty much have it covered.
That's pretty much it, guys. We appreciate you guys for stepping in, and
but you made a whole list.
Right.
So.
I did. Well, I partially made a list.
Yeah, but this guy down below us here, he took it a step further.
He did.
He went with electronic thermoquads.
Yeah.
Which, in your research, Ryan, it hasn't really. If it has been done before, it's not been publicized.
Right.
Correct?
So I scoured the freaking internet, looking for any information I could find on using these throttle bodies on something tunnel rammed and something to make power. Right. I didn't care if it was a blower, whatever.
For anybody that's not familiar with what you're running, I said electronic thermoquads. You said throttle bodies. You're using what is it exactly that you're using on this tunnel ram?
I'm using the Holley sniper setup. They're the regular sniper, not the super sniper setup. They're just the dual quad sniper setup, and it's on a 13-to-1 compression 468 with Brodix heads and solid roller cam and a old Edelbrock TRX2 tunnel ram with an open plenum. It all kind of started because of an accident. You know, I had the engine and I had it in the car and I was going to put the fuel injection on it because I had purchased it to do a twin turbo 496 that the 496 ended up being trashed and it was going to cost way too much. So I was just going to use the single super sniper on this engine, but then I later found out that it was only 880 CFM, and I was like, "Oh, that's not enough." I didn't realize that it was so small. For some reason, I thought it was 1,000 or 1,050. So, I was going to buy just a single. Was it the Stealth, the one that looks like a Dominator, but it's actually EFI? I was going to buy that one, and then I stumbled across the tunnel ram. Went and looked at it, and I was like, "Oh man, I hadn't seen one of these in forever." And so I got a really good deal on it, and I bought it. The EFI we've had our struggles with it. The EFI has worked perfectly fine so far. Like I say that because it really there's nothing in the sniper system that's created problems for us. The only problems that have been created are the problems that we made, and then trying to make that system work well with this engine. This engine's kind of radical, it's cam wise. So we're trying to fine tune drivability as much as possible. And then when you stab it wide open, you know, it's there. And we seem to get it really good wide open. And then it suffers with 20% throttle, 10% throttle cruising 30, 40 miles an hour. It likes to dead pedal a lot. So you got to kind of get into it. So we get that cleaned up to where it cruises better, and then wide open, it's not happy. So we're just trying to still work through the motions of figuring out exactly what this engine wants and what we can make the sniper do, if we can make it do what this engine is going to require it to do. So that's why it hasn't gone to the track yet. That's why I don't have any cool videos. There's 3 reasons why I don't have any of that. 1, the car doesn't have any safety equipment. It's really hard to find a track that's not going to let me run without a diaper. Cage really doesn't matter here, but diaper is a huge thing right now. And I cannot get a diaper in this car because the oil pan is on the cross member. So there is absolutely zero way for me to get a diaper on this car unless I cut out the cross member. And I don't really want to do that right now. the thought, I mean, I could lift the engine up probably and cut it out and do it in the car, but it won't be right. It won't look right. And I'm not, I'm just not there yet. We considered, there's been a lot of stuff going on with the Fairmont build. I haven't filmed any of it, but there's been a lot of fabrication stuff that's going on over at Brandon's that we've learned, and they make a K-member for this car that I may end up purchasing, and we may pull the engine out, cut the front frame rails off, put a K-member in it so I can get the pan on and off and put a diaper on it and all that kind of stuff. So.
Yeah.
But tunnel rams are awesome. I made a list. We'll start with number 1, and we'll just discuss what you think.
Yeah,
sounds good.
Good.
Okay, so number 1 with the tunnel ram, obviously, is the aesthetics, right? Nothing says I'm king dingling like a guy pulling in with the tunnel ram. Now, there might be a guy pulling in with a blower behind him.
Yeah, see, that's the only thing, with the tunnel rams. Mm-hmm. The only thing that tops the tunnel ram is having a blower sticking out of the hood.
Correct. But that costs you a lot more.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
We're not talking about blowers. We're talking about tunnel rams.
Exactly. Right. So the view is awesome. Whether you're outside the car or you're inside the car, the view is 100% better than without it. I mean, there's nothing greater than driving down the highway with my son in the car or driving down a side street and me going, son, is there anybody up ahead in the right lane? Because I can't see him.
Yeah.
And then you putting the trust in your 11-year-old son that he has the right depth perception and knows enough about driving that dad has enough room to get over.
Yeah.
So far, so good. So that's great.
Yeah. I can't speak from personal experience with the tunnel ram, but when I was in high school, I had one of those big, tall, stupid scoops that I didn't need because I didn't have a tunnel ram on my car. And so I can relate to the not being able to see anything in the right lane.
Yes.
Yeah.
Same idea. It wasn't as cool as a tunnel ram, but I couldn't afford a tunnel ram at the time. So,
yeah, I can understand that pain. It took me many, many years to come up with one. I still had to twist my own arm to buy it. The other thing is I haven't been on the track yet, so I can't say for sure. But just by as many times as I've driven, if you're in the left-hand lane, you don't need to have the velocity stacks on. That's all I got to say, because you're going to be late on the tree. You're not leaving until the other guy is. You ain't going to see it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the downside to a tunnel ram in the view is that sometimes you can't view the things you need to view.
You're trying to get in the right lane at the strip so you can see the tree.
Always. Yeah. I think with the velocity stacks off of it, it would be fine, but you kind of want the velocity stacks on because they create a tunneling effect, which really helps with driving the air down. So, a lot of people think those are just for looks, but they function. They do a job. And so, but that's my number one.
People show up in the chat here. We got Richard is here. Unfinished Project came back and he said, Streetcar Chronicles special guest. And yes, special guest talking about tunnel rams tonight.
I'm special.
And you are special.
Yeah.
Mrs. Squarebody's here. Blake from Bad Tree Production is here. Robert's here.
What's up, Robert? Hey, Miss Squarebody. No more popcorn. That's right. Yay. Yay.
Blake says lane choice is crucial in Honcho.
Correct. Blake now has ridden in the Honcho, so he understands the viewing challenge that it can present. He got a little rip or two in it, but I'm like 60% throttle. You go wide open, it's a
yeah.
Yeah. NSB, what's up, guys? So number 2 on the list is what we've already kind of touched on, longer runner, right? Longer runner equals more power all the way around. We've already said it. And it is a very well common misconception that I once had as well on tunnel rams is that they are specifically for high RPM. That's just not the case. In most cases, they start to create a turbulence issue at sometimes with a higher RPM engine that you can eradicate with different runners. And I think there was a problem with a lot of guys trying to run the individual runner a closed plenum versus an open plenum, and the open plenum kind of helps with that. That was a thing I read about a while back. I know Dodge guys actually had a problem with it. Was it Sox and Martin that ran one? And it was an individual runner.
So you're talking individual runner all the way to the carburetor, each barrel
to
of
the carburetor, to the base
plate, each one cylinder with no plenum at all.
Correct. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I could see that being a tuning nightmare on a carburetor, with because I don't have any personal experience with the tunnel ram, obviously, but I've watched a lot of videos, so that makes me an expert, I guess. But
absolutely, yeah.
So what I have watched is one of the last ones I watched was, and Ryan and I were talking about this earlier today. What was his name? Richard Holdner.
Yeah.
Yeah, he done a big. He built a 500 and some cubic inch big block, and they started out with 1100 and 1150 Dominator. Then they went with, I think, twin 1150 Dominators on a tunnel ram. And yeah, it made, like Ryan was saying, it made more power everywhere. Of course, they didn't start the pull until like 4,500 RPM, but at 4,500 RPM, it was already way above the single carburetor. But the problem they had getting to that point to make it the best was they still had to go to each individual corner on each carburetor and almost fine tune each venturi on the carburetor to make it all running, because they had O2 sensors on every cylinder on the header.
Yeah, I was just going to ask that.
They could tell that if a cylinder was running a little bit lean, they could richen up that one corner of the carburetor to help with that. And they were having some issues with that, and I don't remember for sure. They were trying to be scientific about it and make sure it wasn't the carburetor. They kind of switched up around, and what they alluded to is it ended up being just a distribution problem in the intake for some reason. But on our level, trying to tune one like that, I guess plug reading would be the easiest thing or the best thing to do. But the open plenum, long runners, more torque, more horsepower, everywhere to a certain point.
Yep.
Yeah.
See, I thought for a while I was having an issue with this being fuel injected, right? The squirt for the injectors is you're atomizing the fuel, right? You're forcing the fuel through, right? And so, when you're carbureted, especially on this old intake here, probably had 660 center squirters on it for most of its life, right? And so my thought process when we were having problems in Sykeston is I noticed that inside the plenum, it was just really wet. And I was like, I'm wondering if we've got an atomization issue, and it being an open plenum, and we have the injectors forcing the fuel into the cylinder, into the intake runner, and it's setting in that plenum and puddling.
I remember you talking about that.
Because we were having a rich lean issue, right? So in one would think vacuum leak, but the other thought of it, you're like, okay, well, this thing's loading up with fuel, and that's where we're getting a backfire here and there because it's leaning itself out. And all of a sudden, the car moves or it revs, and then a puddle of fuel runs down the back runner, and boom, right?
Yeah.
And
essentially, that probably could be what was happening, but because of the massive, well, maybe not massive, but somewhat massive vacuum leaks that you had going on, so you were having to run it way rich.
Yes.
Which would cause what you were seeing.
Yep.
But
yeah, we worked the process of elimination backwards. But long story short, now that it's figured out, I mean, it acts like a carbureted car, only without the cold start issue. I mean, when it was 30 degrees down here, I think 28 one day, I was like, well, let's go see how well this thing starts on the 85 that's 2 or 3 weeks old without touching the throttle pedal. And on like the 10th rotation, it fired right up and idled and never tried to die. Wow. And you know as well as I do with a big block, especially when it's carbureted, if you don't have a choke on it, you're gonna be sitting there with your foot on the pedal for about 3 minutes trying to get any kind of heat in it.
Yeah.
And and even if you're
every time I start the truck.
Yeah, even if you're the best carburetor tuner in the world. Now, I mean, like I was pretty good with carburetors, and there was, I knew some tricks that you can make one run in cold weather without touching the pedal. But when it's a rowdy big block, that's not in the cards. So
yeah,
it's really nice that it actually works like it should, and the car starts and runs and does everything it's supposed to do. Now it's just trying to line out, what's going to make it happy. Nope.
Drivability of it.
Yeah, the drivability and because I love driving it. The car drives fantastic. Like it drives good. Even with solid motor mounts, all that stuff, it's fine. I have to tighten everything up every 10 minutes, but that's a whole other. And I find stuff loose that I'm just like, how the hell? I had a muffler hanging the other day. I'm like, why is it hanging? And I got up underneath there, and the bolt had the lock washer and the lock, everything just backed off, and it just was dangling down. Like, what? But so far so good. So we've covered View, we've covered Long Runner, and how great that is, right? Let's go to number 3. Chicks dig it. I mean, let's face it. That's how I met my wife. She saw I had a tunnel ram. And she just basically threw herself at me, and we've been together ever since. She told me if I sold the tunnel ram, that she would leave me. So,
yeah,
I mean that's got to be,
that's a scientific test right there.
Oh yeah. No, if you're doing a scientific test, that's the best way to do it. And So I didn't have a tunnel ram for a while. Our relationship was rocky, and then I got another one, and we've been happily married ever since. Great, it's good stuff. I mean,
so yeah, if you're having issues, buy a tunnel ram. That will solve all of them.
Oh yeah, it's way better than buying a Corvette. You know what I mean? Nobody does that. If more guys bought tunnel rams instead of Corvettes, there would be no chicks left on the planet. They'd all be hemmed up. But
don't tell everybody.
Is what it is. Not
all
my
the
problem.
single guys out there will hate you because all the chicks will be taken.
Well, it is what it is. Not my issue anymore. I'm docked. You know what I mean? Yeah, I'm in the Bay. So that's another reason why she wants me to kind of take it off now, is because she's just tired of ladies literally throwing themselves at the windshield of the car as we drive around and make it awkward.
Yeah. Does she want you to take it off and get rid of it, or keep it in case,
No, she doesn't. No, God, no, don't get rid of it. What are you, nuts? She wants to chrome it and put it on the mantle. And I'm like, no, we're not putting it in here. You're no, it doesn't go in feng shui. You're crazy. Yeah. So we left it.
Amber says there may be something to that. I had a motorcycle when we met.
Yeah.
I don't know how that applies to a tunnel ram though.
Well, I mean, it doesn't at all, but
no,
I'm glad that worked out for you.
Yeah. Hey, I've never had a tunnel ram, but I will. I can promise you that I will have a tunnel ram. I don't know how soon, but I will have one. I'm actually I have a few searches that I do over and over and over again, like every morning on Facebook, and tunnel ram is one of them. And so far, nothing yet. But
well, I'm going to tell you, I think that, and I can't speak for everybody in the chat right now. I don't know who all has or has not had a tunnel ram, but for the ones that have had a tunnel ram, I'd like for you to chime in. I mean, how did it change your life in a positive way? I mean, I think that it would, if both of you went out and purchased a tunnel ram together at the same time, it'd be something very magical, and we'd see just that much more growth in your, not only YouTube life, but just your personal life and your experiences. And I think that would be great to see. I mean, you already have great smiles, but imagine your smile going from to.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I know how much just a hood scoop with a single carburetor has increased the the happiness of my marriage.
Oh,
You know, I can only imagine if I had a tunnel ram sticking out of the hood.
right. Yeah.
And
It would definitely step that up.
You know, something I was telling Ryan earlier today, and we were discussing this, like if it wasn't for the weather aspect of having to keep it covered up or getting the engine all wet, I would have a tunnel ram on my daily driver. No, you know, but it's just the fact that if you have water, you know, running in on the top of the engine, sitting there for a while, it'll seep into the block. I've been through that before, not with a tunnel ram, but just having a hole in the hood.
You could always do some type of quick disconnect hood scoop for
there you go.
The wetter seasons, and then take it off when it's sunny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought about that after we quit talking about it. You know, it would be kind of cool. Now, some might call it blasphemous, but I would call it cool. Yeah, you know, they make the repop of the 2-lane blacktop scoop.
Yeah,
not sure what that is.
Is it similar? Is it similar to the Grump Lump?
Similar, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, you should totally do that, and then it won't get wet if you close the front off.
Yeah. But then, you know, like Travis said, you'd almost have to have it quick disconnect or easily removable to where, because if you just have a scoop on there, you know, when you pull into somewhere, it's like, is there something under that scoop, or is it just there for looks? Now, if you just have a tunnel ram sticking up there and 2 carburetors, velocity stack, there's no question that you what you have. I mean, it's just like walking out there in a Speedo. I mean, hey, this is what I got.
Sun's out, guns out. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. Yeah. I mean,
oh,
I mean, you could put your swimming trunks on and stuff, go to the beach, and you know.
Yeah, let them hang.
But, you know,
they say. That's really all I have for the top 10 list. I mean, the rest of them don't matter.
All right, we need to highlight Robert Magney's comment there. Yes, please.
That's awesome.
Amen. Listen, you know, I cut my teeth in the car world, as I'm sure you guys probably did at some point in time. When I was a kid, I used to read CarCraft, Popular. Was it Popular Hot Rodding? There was an off-brand. Popular Hot
Rodding.
There was Hot Rod Magazine. And I used to, like, we go to art class, right? And we used to do collages, right? Yeah. And I would always go find car magazines, and I always would cut out cars with tunnel rams or blowers. And there was a J2000 that was a really popular pro street car, and I can't remember the guy's name to save my life, but if somebody's in here that knows it, it was yellow and like candy colored, and the guy built a tube chassis, and the body came up this way and the front tilted this way. And it was amazing. And very famous car. It's still around. And he actually built a Nova as well, as a blue 65 Nova that was twin turbocharged, which was out of this world in the early 80s. I don't know. Compound boost like crazy. I don't know how that was some voodoo magic of some sorts, but he was a really cool car builder. So I used to always put all these collages together with these pro street cars. And I love the Street Freak era. Like, it was just really cool to me. And So that was kind of like my vision when I bought the tunnel ram. The car changed from being a sleeper with the steel wheels to let's stick this thing out of the hood, and maybe later on I'll do a heartbeat down the side of it or something like pink or with some flame. Then have somebody hand letter on the back, all throttle, no bottle. That's really what I want to put on the back of it so bad it's not even funny. But tunnel rams are great. They're great all the way around. There's common misconceptions of the things. I'll tell you that much. I can't tell you how many guys with white New Balance shoes in my life I have heard say, I never knew a tunnel ram car run worth a damn back in the day. They always stumbled and fell on their face, and I'd run out of their life. And you know why that happened? Because they sucked at tuning carburetors. And they probably didn't have enough initial timing or full advanced timing. They didn't account for the drop. There's things you got to account for when you put a tunnel ram on something. And most guys back then, listen, the guy who primarily told me that story over and over again until I was blue in the face was also the guy that said he ran nitrous on his car back then. And I asked him how much nitrous he ran. He goes, shoot, I don't know. We used to turn it on.
There you go.
Huh?
Yeah. Well, I guess that could be on like the negative side of tunnel rams is possibly tuning issues for drivability, carburetor or EFI, because and anything with a long runner, you have less signal to your carburetor. So your throttle response, depending on how your carburetors are tuned, your throttle response could suffer with having those long runners. But if you have enough squirter, have enough timing, get everything right, I've seen some guys, I think it's David Freiberger and some other guys on YouTube or the internet that have been playing with these things for longer than I've been alive, it seems like. They can stick them on there, fiddle with them a little bit, and they'll have instant throttle response. Startup is easy, and actually be perfectly streetable. And then you have that cool factor on top of it.
Mr. Foot.
I haven't been doing a good job of highlighting comments here, but Bigfoots and Mopar says, my engine builder, Gary, always says, if you can't tune a carburetor, use two.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's something that people don't account for. See, Jeremy figured it out. That's what Blake said. Jeremy figured it out because he had stumbled through it. He worked through it. Now, Jeremy is and the wizardry that goes on over there at HQ at BTP. They've got a good little team of guys that can work through that stuff. I mean, if they can make a thermoquad work, they can make carburetors work on a tunnel ram. And so, my whole thing is that I forgot where I was going with this. Where was I going with this?
Tunnel rams are awesome.
Tunnel ram too.
Yeah, they're really cool. Shoot, I was gonna make a really good point and it just farted right out of my ear. Did y'all see it? Did it smoke when it did it?
I didn't see anything. Might be smoking now though.
Tunnel rams are cool, man.
Yeah, there you go.
No, I know what I was gonna say. A lot of guys from the old days that ran tunnel rams and they ran well. They were what? Manual transmission cars, right?
Yeah.
You saw a lot of your tunnel ram stuff on a lot of super stock, pro stock, stuff like that. Not super stock, but pro stock, and then outlaw stuff. And a lot of them were manual transmission cars. And so I feel, this is just me, and I don't know if it's ever been spoken out loud somewhere else, or I think that load has a lot to do with it. And if you have a very loose converter that allows that engine to spin freely in an earlier state in the run, that tunnel ram is going to be way more responsive to it. And I think that's why it works so well in this. Whereas I think Jeremy was fighting some tuning problems, but he also has a pretty tight converter, and he's got a lot. I mean, that car's not light by any means. I don't think it's super light. So a looser converter would probably benefit a tunnel ram a ton.
Well, it kind of gets rid of, like I was talking about, the signal problem at lower engine speeds.
Yep.
And I mean, I think that is exactly what you're saying is lower engine speeds with the manual. You know, yeah, you've got to lower engine speed whenever you actually engage.
Right.
With an automatic, if you have a looser converter, it kind of makes up for that because you're already higher RPMs when you're trying to get anything done. So,
right. And so, like the converter in my car, it's a 9-inch Hughes 4800 stall, and then my car weighs somewhere near a metric ton, so it's really loose, and it's very, but it's when you stab it, it's there, it's responsive, it wants to go. I love tunnel rams. Yeah, me sell mine and use a single plane. Ironically, yeah. See, I think he shafted you on that one, Mr. Foot. I think he didn't want you to get too cool for school.
Yeah.
Because the jack pine's freaking awesome, right? And if you put a tunnel ram on it, you might have imploded the earth. Awesome. There's a good possibility.
I had a thought and then I lost it too. I don't remember what it was. Oh, it's on the loose converter thing. So like you were talking about, Chad, with the booster signal or the signal that the carburetor sees, the loose converter and the manual transmission eliminates a lot of that need for power straight off of idle because there's no load until it has a chance to get some Venturi speed up so that it doesn't need the signal as much.
Right.
But
exactly.
But with the manual transmission with a higher first gear, you can only slip the clutch so much. And then when you're actually moving and the clutches it's locked in at, if you're just kind of cruising around town, you're not going to be slipping the clutch the whole time until you're at 4,000 RPM.
No.
So that's what Ryan was saying. The older guys with the drivability issues were probably more than likely manual transmissions.
I went a different way with that, but
Or running automatic with low stall speeds. I mean, because you think about it, converter technology has come a million miles.
Oh yeah,
from the 80s to now, right? And I mean, even though it's the same concept, like people are getting away. You never heard of somebody running a 45 or 5500 stall converter on the street, right? And because it'll burn up the transmission, it'll wear out the converter. No, not the case. You can drive the heck out of it. It's way better stuff than it was back then.
I mean, growing up, I just remember everybody saying, "Well, just go get a Vega converter."
Yep.
Because they would bolt right up.
Yep.
But they were a higher stall, and that's what a lot of guys used to run. It's because they didn't have the technology we have in the aftermarket world that they had back then.
Right, exactly. So, with the manual transmission cars in the racing world, well, they were completely different. I mean, those guys used to run like basically. I mean, I've seen some guys pressure plates and their clutch discs. You ever seen some of that? I mean, it was basically saw blades. I mean, it looked like there was no clutch material. The material was metal, right? So those guys would stand on them at 8,000 RPM and let them go, and they'd let them go, and they grab, but they'd be slipping out, 30, 40 feet before they grabbed, and they were already grabbing signal and gone. But street-wise, manual transmission stuff, low RPM cruising, I'm sure that created a lot of issues that. And most guys, you think about it, this particular fellow I'm talking about can't drive for squat either. Love him to death. But, you have to drive a car a certain way when it is set up to do a certain thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't expect Honcho to be just the best driving car I've ever driven in my whole entire life to the grocery store. I expect it to be a bit of a pain in the ass all the way there. Excuse me.
Yep.
Yeah.
But that's the part of it that I love. If it was just easy, I wouldn't like it that much, right? But guys back then to guys now, it's I'm hoping the tunnel ram thing comes back because with all this new technology, I think that there should be more tunnel ram usage out there because they're just great. They're great items. Like I was super stoked that I was able to get this intake. I paid $300 for that intake, and you can't touch one online for $550, $600.
Yeah.
Doing a lot of research on tunnel rams, I learned that Edelbrock that was their favorite design. It was their best design that made the best power, and they moved facilities to a larger facility, and they damaged and lost some of the tooling with the TRX2, and so they had to redesign it. Yeah, they had to redesign the intake, and it was never the same. So guys used to run these in the pro stock days. A lot of guys would run these, and I was on a couple of old pro stock forums, and a guy posted up a picture of one of these intakes. The guy goes, "Man, that's the best intake they ever made. We used to scour trying to find these for our pro stock car because I guess they'd break them a lot. I don't know how you break them, but they'd break them. Maybe they were taking them on and off multiple times trying to find massive amounts of vacuum leaks, and they dropped it a couple. I don't know. I'm not really sure. But hell yeah, tunnel rams, absolutely. TRM, man. And Andy from Unity Motorsports, he does a lot of good stuff on tunnel ram stuff too. And he has a lot of scientific information. And Holdner's great. I love Holdner. I watch Holdner, and I'll get on there and pick his brain, and he will always answer your comments. He is a really good dude, and he is a book of knowledge. And I didn't know that Chad Reynolds was really good friends with Holdner. And I told Chad, I was like, he goes, "Yeah, me and Holdner go way back." I'm like, "Really?" He goes, "Yeah, I'm going to probably get him on a podcast." I'm like, "Let me know when you do it. I want to get on there and pick his brain." I like that guy. He's a nice fella.
Yeah, and I've always liked watching his stuff because he doesn't care what it is.
No.
He just wants to make horsepower and show everybody how to make horsepower with whatever he's got hung on the dyno.
Yep.
And with whatever parts is available. Because I know I don't know if he still does, but I know he used to be, I guess, I don't know if he's official or unofficial, but spokesperson for Speedmaster, which Speedmaster has its own reputation for being the lower end Chinese stuff, which I've got a lot of Speedmaster parts in this 339, and I've used a lot of Speedmaster parts in the past. And now it depends on what level you're at. At my level, everything has worked great.
Yep.
Now, if you have a Speedmaster intake right next to an Edelbrock intake, the Speedmaster is going to have a few more little things that you might have to touch up to make them good or better.
Right.
But I've also watched a lot of tests between Speedmaster and Edelbrock intakes and all the different intakes, and they're just right there with them. Now the rest of the parts, cylinder heads, I mean, there's all sorts of tests been done with those. The people that's picked them apart, they have a lot more experience than I do with them. But when it comes right down to it, depending on your level, where you're wanting to be at, the Speedmaster stuff will get most of us where we want to go.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's what Richard Holdner, he showed a lot of that. He's like, we're using Speedmaster stuff. We're using whatever he could find, and making power with it, and with no bones about it. You've got to have Brodix heads to make this kind of horsepower.
Right.
It may be easier to make that kind of horsepower, but it's going to cost you a lot more.
Right. Yeah. No, he does a very good comparison of and he'll do high end stuff too. You want to see some high end stuff?
Oh yeah,
stuff.
Get
an idea of, hey, if I'm on a budget, I'm here. If I'm got, my wife says, "Hey, here's the credit card," then then you go step by.
Well, and that's what I was going to say. Like, so if it's the difference between, you can either have rebuilt stock whatever Camelbacks, or a set of Speedmaster heads, I can't see how you could go wrong with the Speedmaster heads. They've got to be better than the old, even by the time you rebuild a set of Camelbacks and get them in good working order, you're going to spend probably the same money, and you could have a brand new set of Speedmasters, and they're going to most likely run better, and they're aluminum, so they're going to be more tolerant to detonation and everything else. They're going to be a better head in the long run for the same money as, and if you can only afford Speedmasters, you can't not build the engine because you can't afford Edelbrock or Brodix heads. Build it with Speedmasters and have something that you can enjoy rather than staring at a catalog dreaming about Brodix heads.
Well,
exactly the position I was in with the Street 39. I had some really good, the L98 Corvette aluminum factory GM heads. I could have had the machine for 202 160 valves, but I didn't because I was just running 339 cubic inches. But those heads need a lot of work to flow. And then I run across the deal. It was a Black Friday sale is what it was when I got them Speedmaster heads. It's like they're way better out of the box than those L98 heads will be after I get done with a lot of work. I mean, I already had the investment in parts, the new valves, everything for those factory heads, but like I'm just gonna be way ahead of the game. Other than compression, I did drop compression with using those Speedmaster heads because the combustion chambers were a little bit bigger. But I'm not. But I think like you were saying, Travis, was if you have a set of factory heads, it's almost cheaper, and you're better off to get the lower end stuff. And I think that's what it's there for.
Oh,
100%. That's what.
I mean, if you're at the point where you can afford to spend, I mean, what's a good set of Brodix head going to be? $2,000, $2,500?
Yeah, you'd probably be about $2,500. They'll probably be there.
If you're at the point where you can afford to spend that, then I'll by all means do it. But if you're at the point where you can only budget, I mean, what is a $700-800 for a cheap set of aluminum heads?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You're going to spend that to do a proper refresh on an old set of stock heads anyway.
Well, think about it this way. So back in like 2004 or 5, we had a set of AFR 230s on a small block, and we ended up lifting a head, and it needed to be surfaced and stuff. And so I went to the machine shop, and we were kind of waiting on them, but we needed to get the engine back together because we had another race to go do. So we had a friend of ours that ran a Beat the Heat car. He was a Fort Worth PD cop, and he had a little Mustang with a small block 406 in it, and he had a set of Pro Comp 230s on it, a little cheap Pro Comp, right? And he was upgrading to a Brodix head, and he had just pulled them off. We bought them from him for $650. Swapped the springs, threw it on the engine, and the car. I mean, the truck performed about the same. I mean, it was a nitrous engine, so I mean, we were force feeding stuff through it. So naturally aspirated, it would have run as good naturally aspirated as the two. I don't know. We didn't ever dyno it, but we ran it the way we had it set up with the AFRs, and the truck was off by like 300ths.
Yeah.
So, I mean, now. Would they last very well in a lifted head situation like the AFR did? I don't know if the casting is as good, but I mean, I would like to think that it would. For $600, I mean, they were used.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what I mean? Like, you could buy those heads new. I think back then you could buy those heads new, bare for $1,100.
Yeah.
I mean, Dave. I mean, well, hell, even the old 454 that was in this car, it had a cheap knockoff Chinese head. We don't even know what brand they were. They were a company out of China that was trying to sell heads to ATK engines, and they sent prototypes over, and they were brand new. And I bought them for $550, complete with springs and valves and guide plates. Now I got a backdoor deal, but I mean, still, they wouldn't have cost that much new. and we had to change the valve springs on them. And they worked great. I mean, they worked fantastic on that big block. Matter of fact, that big block, I sold it to a guy, the year before last in the December, I think, of 2021. And I sold the engine to him. He put it in a mud truck with like 58-inch boggers and a 14-inch lift. I think it's a freaking monster truck. And he sent me a video of it going through a mud hole that guys were getting stuck in with that same motor still kicking butt. Yeah. And that was just some good old cheap aluminum heads, a Howard's little 540 whatever cam, and a 20,000s disc piston 454 with a 119 combustion chamber. Now, if you put a tunnel ram on it, it would be a lot cooler.
Yeah.
Yes. Everything would be cooler with a tunnel ram.
And it would probably make more power.
Yes. Tunnel around the world. I
mean, why not? A good Victor single intake costs you about $400. Why not buy a $550 wind or whatever you can find and buy another carburetor, or step up, be ballsy, and put a electronic thermal quads on it like I did. Dave. Fun fact: Dave's building a C30, and it's been in the background for a while. And he obtained a 502 that he's now punching to a 540. It's at the machine shop. He's going to put a 540 with aluminum heads and fuel injection in the 72 C30 that he's going to use as a hauler. And we went down to Summit when Blake was here. I took him to Summit, which he was like, oh.
Yeah. I couldn't go to Summit. I'd be in trouble.
Yeah, I took him to Scratch and Dent. He was like, woo! He was like, man. Well, they had two sniper units, EFI dual setups like this one. And Dave today sent me a picture. They had a set of RPM heads and all for a big block, some metal block RPM heads. Dave sent me a picture today with the RPM heads and both the sniper units. I'm like, what are you doing? He goes, I don't know. I spent way too much money, but the C30 is getting a tunnel ram with the dual sniper setup. I was like, so now his truck, his 72 blue truck, has a tunnel ram going on it that we're going to debut hopefully at the truck gathering. He's thrashing right now, and then it looks rad. Twin throttle bodies, direct injection, tunnel ram, the whole nine. And then the C30 is going to have the honcho set up with the 540 in it. That's going to be – Dave's a busy guy.
Yeah.
That's why Dave hasn't on this. Yeah. Tunnel around the world. I just had a set.
I agree.
On 194 Beehive Springs for 350. Yeah, I know. Yeah. I mean, listen, the great heads. I mean, they're great heads, not like awesome by any means, but they're great heads. And dude, double humps. We're talking about double humps, right? Yeah. I used to run double humps on a lot of stuff, and they were great heads. You did have to spend a lot of time hogging them out if you wanted to, make good power with them. But man, we had a double hump head. I say we. A friend of mine had a double hump head, small block 383, and a 79 Camaro with a 200 shot. The car runs 650s, 660s, and the eighth mo. Yeah. He drove it everywhere. It was great.
Richard has one on an engine stand in his shop, and everything he puts it in runs 11s, and it's got camelbacks on it. No matter what car he's ever put it in, it runs 11s in the quarter mile.
You're not going to go break the world with dyno numbers, but they're great heads. Oh, and tunnel ram.
And a tunnel ram. Need tunnel ram.
Yeah.
So we got about a minute left.
There he is.
There he is. Man. We were just talking about you.
Andy's ears must have been burning.
Yeah, somebody did say tunnel ram. TRM, baby.
TRM Mafia.
TRM.
I think even Blake's considering a tunnel ram. Maybe not. Maybe.
I would love to run one on a cream puff for my daily driver.
Before you end this, let's do a vote. Somebody write this down. But wait, there's more. Let's write this down. How many? Let's all guess. How many cars are showing up to the No Name Nationals this year that are going to have tunnel rams on it?
Oh,
I don't know. Not me. Maybe. You never know.
yeah. Probably not me, but it's possible. I mean, it just depends.
I'm going to say
So
11 cars.
I can run 2 nitrous plates.
I was
2
going to say
bottles.
15.
Ooh, 15. Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's spending a bunch of money. Miss Squarebody still in here? Is she watching?
Yeah.
All right.
Step away because first responder said something about some 041 heads. That's what I got a set of those double hump 041 heads that are bare, but they've got the accessory holes.
041's a good head.
Yeah.
Andy says 10.
What's that?
First responder has a tunnel ram for a small block Chevy, a Mopar small block, and a big block Mopar.
Man. See, he's got all the tunnel rams.
Yep.
Man.
That's where they're all at. That's why I can't find one.
So Andy says 10. I said 11. You say 15. What's your guess?
I don't know. I'm going to say probably 10 that's going to show up with the tunnel ram. Probably around there.
Riding with Andy. Okay. 10 it is.
Yeah.
There you
all
have
right,
it,
we're going to go over to the after-hour show. And everybody remember next week on – where are you at? No, you're over here. No, you're over there. I keep playing the same with a different hand. We're next week, Chad's channel, 7 o'clock for a tailgate talk. And Amber said it's going to redirect, but if not, she did put the link in there. We'll catch you guys in about 3 minutes now on the after hour show.
Yeah.
See you in a bit.
All right,
Thanks for coming, everybody.
You bet.
Thanks, Ryan.
You bet, man. See ya.
See ya.